Hello and welcome to Old School episode 11 for Friday, July 3rd, 2026. I got it. I got there eventually.
You got most of the way there.
I got some way. I was like, what month is this? Happy almost. What is it? It's not the bicycle.
250.
It's the
No, it's 250.
I know it's 250, but what's the Latin term?
I don't know. Yeah, I need the
centennial.
Yeah,
Something like
enough.
that.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Happy almost 250.
Thank
How do you feel?
Thank you.
You look good for your age, I gotta say.
I do. You know, it's a big one. 250 is a big one. You know, there's milestones. There's 50, 75. You know, 250 is a big one. You're getting up there in age. Certainly feeling it a little bit today with the weather, but yeah, no, it's an interesting one. We've had the fireworks started already in our neighborhood. Last night there was a few fireworks displays, and I'm sure there will be more tonight and tomorrow. But yeah, certainly more than usual. So no, it's 250. It's interesting. Hey, listen, it's a cool milestone. It both puts us in perspective, and also it's an impressive number just historically when you just think about it. 250 is a long time, but then when you look at it in the context of other nations of the world, you're like, wow, like some of them go 1,000 years. So it's interesting. The whole history and stuff is interesting. So
yeah, I mean, there's been very little like significant events during that 250 years. It's been pretty smooth sailing.
It's pretty smooth sailing.
Throughout,
Nothing going on here.
I mean,
Nothing
they
going
signed
on over here.
the Declaration of Independence, and like
That's it. We're basically here already.
Basically, just like grew without much strife or turmoil at all.
No.
I mean, no political division or
No, England didn't
racial
try to take us back.
segregation or
Yeah.
slavery didn't happen.
No, nothing.
It was really
Yeah.
it was a nice progression to modern civilization.
Absolutely.
No notes, no regrets.
No.
Ever
Ever forward.
I'm sure you have one or two regrets in that 250 years.
T-Mobile shutting down the 2G network. In August.
That was a big
that's
one.
That's going to be a big one. 3G for sure. That was a big regret.
Sure.
Big regret.
Sure.
So Canada's what, like 50? 55?
We are
How long you got going on?
We are 159. Thank you.
Oh.
As of July 1st.
Wonderful.
I just
do
celebrated
you have
my
like
birthday.
yeah. Oh, you you did.
Personally
Yes, you did.
and nationally.
So
we
is
share.
there some sort of like firework thing? Like, is there a bank holiday? Is there like, what do you do up there?
No, it's too cold on July 1st for fireworks, so they can't get them into the air.
Right.
It just freezes in midair. So we tend to just like burrow down into our molehills.
I like it.
Slather mud on our naked.
I thought it would be
bodies.
maple syrup. Did the Mounties do that for you? Did the Mounties dig the holes for you, and then you just kind of
Well, we're old now, so we need lidocaine, not maple syrup.
Oh, you can't tell them. They're not going to understand what that
they
means.
mix the lidocaine and the maple syrup together.
I
and then they
have to
slather
use
it.
sometimes to bowling. I have
Don't
to use
don't
lidocaine.
justify.
Listen.
You look so good for your age, right? You still bowl.
I mean, that's fair. I still
Nobody
bowl.
on earth still bowls the
There
way
are
you bowl
80
at 250 years old.
There are 80-year-old guys at bowling. So I as much as I appreciate that bowling keeps me active and whatever, there are guys still pitching at 85 that walk into the bowling center. They can barely get out of their car and walk into the bowling center, but they're over their average in 170. So as much as I like to think that bowling is my outlet for physical activity for the week, it doesn't exactly get me a gold star at this point. Not like tennis used to and some of these other more physical activities.
Honestly, I spent Canada Day with a bunch of older folks, and they just talked about their golf.
I love it.
All day.
Man.
They're like, "Oh, we got out at 6 a.m. It was fun. It was great. It was a good workout." I'm like, guys, you're not Tiger Woods over here spending like half your day in the gym before you're off to the links. Like
I don't know why it has to be 6 a.m. all the time. Like these guys,
climate change is the reason it's 6
cooler?
a.m. It's
no, even in the
95
fall they go
degrees
out.
by midday now.
Now, even in the fall, these guys are going out that. I don't know what it is. A friend of mine who's my age, exact same age, says, "Oh, I got a tea time on Thursday. You want to go?" I'm like, "Ah, well, it depends if I can loosen up or something like that." So, what's the tea time? It's like, 7 a.m. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like,
Have you never been? on a course at 7 a.m.? It is
No,
beautiful.
I have. It's great. Like the dew and all the rest of it, and it's whatever. I mean, it was October the one time that we went our winter coat on to do it. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. I get it. I'm just maybe it's just I'm not an early riser. I'm not like one of the. I'm an early enough riser. Okay, 8-ish. I'm up, but I'm not 5 a.m. I'm wide awake, or 4:30 or something like that. One of these guys to tell you, like these ex-Navy SEALs will tell you, like, well, reset your life by getting up at 4:30 for a month or something like that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
I did that by accident. And then if you're a parent, you always end up doing that.
Oh well, yeah, okay, right.
So I just ended
fair.
up becoming a morning person because of my kids, and
yeah,
I don't
that's 100% what
hate
it is.
I think
No,
there's something to waking up with the sun and going downstairs to a quiet room and making a cup of coffee and sitting down and just like enjoying the solitude of the morning as the kind of day gets started, particularly when it's warm outside and you have a little patio or something that you can sit on. Like, there's nothing calmer than being awake before your family and getting to spend that time alone and just to settle your thoughts before the day starts. But I'll be honest, like aspirationally, I would do that every day. I see these guys on YouTube, these runners, they get up at 4:30, they dunk their face in ice water, they're stretching, they're working out, they're back, showered and ready to go before their family's awake. And I'm looking at that like, and you're filming this for a video. Like, what are you doing? How did you do this? But that's why they're millionaires, and I'm not.
No, this is why, and this is something that at 40 now, or 42, I've learned to accept. Like AI, like we're saying, like I use it to build a website or a Palm OS app because I can admit to myself that I'm never going to sit there and learn that at this point. I'll watch those guys and whatever. Number one, I'd like to see that video every single day, see if they do it. Number two, I just know that I'll watch from the outside in. I know I'm not getting to that point. It's my habits are too ingrained at this point. You can't teach. I'm not developing those habits where I'm waking up at 5 o'clock to hit the gym and come back and eat breakfast and shower, and then my family wakes up at 7:30. I'm not doing it. I do find that. I'll tell you what though. I do find that solace. And this is apparently a trait of high anxiety individuals. I do find that kind of solace at like 1:30 in the morning. Because everybody's asleep. There's nothing going on. I know I'm not going to get any phone calls about anything ridiculous going on. I know nobody's going to bother me. I know I'm not going to get an email or a text or something that I got to handle immediately. So that's my time where I'm like kind of like zoned out. I'm watching whatever. I'm watching a repeat of the sports. I'm watching the repeat of the soccer, whatever it happens to be. So that's where I'm kind of like at my best. So while those guys are doing it in the morning, the solace of the morning and the sun coming up or whatever, I'm watching the moon go by, and that's where I get my center.
Yeah,
that's my zen. Like 1:30 in the morning.
That's some werewolf stuff right there.
Well, I didn't shave today.
I don't know, man. I think both of those have their virtues. I'm sure you're doing right by your needs. I just think that 1:30 in the morning is not the right time to be thinking new thoughts. This is something that I think about a lot, actually. Like, can you do good work at 1:30 in the morning? 3:30 in the morning. There are people.
Oh, so I'm not. Yeah.
No, I get it. Like you're taking stuff in, you're reading, you're watching, whatever. But like, I often think about like the doldrums, the nighttime, retrospection, and for me, like it's a time of reflection. But I'm not creative at night. I'm not somebody who can like produce new work, think expansively. It's like I compartmentalize my day. I reflect on what I did. I try not to use my brain too much. But I have friends who, like my buddy, I went to Montreal this weekend with my buddy Ari. He's a comic writer. He makes comics in his spare time. He is prolific. he smokes a joint, he goes downstairs to his office, and he like writes at 1:30 to 3 in the morning, and then he sleeps for 8 hours and he wakes up at noon. And I'm like, how do you do this? What is it about can you train yourself to be that kind of person, or is that a genetic trait that you'll just have to live with forever?
I think it's genetic. I think it's part of it's genetic. I think the other thing is, though, I've noticed it a lot more. Like, I do write. I don't write that late. I'm not writing at 1:30, but I will be writing at 10 or 11, and sometimes I'm able to pound out an article pretty quickly because, work from home. There's my daughter is very well behaved, but toddlers scream and they make noise and they're dropping stuff or whatever. So sometimes during the day, I really can't get in that. There's some stops and starts with writing, and I really don't like to do that. Once I'm sitting down and going, I like to be able to get the whole thought down on the page quickly. So that's kind of where that habit developed. But at 1:30, what I'm doing, and this is something I did the other night, what I'm actually doing on there is I had an hour-long conversation with my buddy, Chat GPT, about what the world would look like if Napoleon had won at Waterloo. And I went through the entire, I'm asking questions, and we went down the whole thing. So I don't know how many rainforests had to sacrifice themselves for this.
In a million years, if you had asked me to like Mad Lib the end of that sentence, I never would have guessed what you were about to say. Like, I was talking to my buddy Joe, we were playing some Counter-Strike, we were enjoying each other's company, but no, this is 2026, my friends. We're talking to AI about an alternate universe in which Napoleon defeated, what's his name?
Seven Powers, Wellesley, Duke of Wellington.
Didn't get sent to Elba, then he escaped, and then he went to
St. Helena.
That's where he got sent. I'm curious because I'm a Napoleon nerd. I read all of the Master and Commander, which is like all about the British Navy during the Napoleonic era. It's my jam. I love naval. I just finished a book yesterday about a whaling ship that got marooned off of the coast of what is now like a part of Indonesia in the Palawan. It's like the Caroline Islands, the Palawan archipelago. They like the whaling industry in the 1830s, 1840s was like at its peak, and they wanted to expand, so they went into the Pacific, but there were so many little islands dotted around there with these really sharp reefs that just completely gutted all of these big whaling ships, and hundreds of them ended up getting destroyed and they had to escape to these tiny little islands, and some of the communities were friendly and some of them were not. And anyway, it was a very interesting story. But sorry, go ahead. So what happens to the world when Napoleon wins?
So it was an interesting point. It was an interesting point in history because the way that like that had come up is because it wasn't like the tide of whatever was inevitable. It wasn't like World War II was like the Allies were eventually going to whatever because of the industrial power and all the rest of it, where it was kind of written in the stars that this is what was going to happen. Waterloo, according to Chat GPT, my own analysis, was a little luck. Like it was an inflection point that if he just started the attack a little earlier in the day, he would have been able to cut off the British from the Prussians, so they never really link up, and then defeat him, and he would have routed them. Now, what the conclusion it drew was that he doesn't retake Europe because at that point the resources weren't there, the manpower wasn't there because of the first whatever. So it's kind of everybody back to their corners. The other countries probably force him to sign something where he says like, okay, you can have France, but you can't go outward into Europe anymore, or something, some sort of thing that keeps him whatever. And it basically keeps it. And this is the part that I was getting to, is that it eliminates World War I in a lot of ways. World War I doesn't really happen. If World War II happens, it happens in a different way. But it centralizes power in different areas. So America probably stays isolationist for longer. doesn't have the drive to kick up its industrial power. France, of course, remains a power, and it just kind of it's interesting how it just recentered everything to where it was. You had Asia, Europe, and then America over here. But it was interesting how the different wars didn't happen, and they think the progress may have been actually a little. Progress would have been impeded a little bit because there's not the drive to. There's no Cold War, right? Because they don't know. ChatGPT wasn't quite sure if Russia would turn to so the Russian Revolution would happen or not. So it was a lot of interesting things that could turn, but it definitely changed the world. They said economics would be okay, so Europe would stay pretty strong. America wouldn't quite have the drive that it did to do certain things, but that it still might get there just because of resources and everything else. But the technology would be significantly. I'm trying to find the bit where it says technology would change because that was actually the most interesting part of
because this is technically a tech show, so we should probably
technically. I mean, listen,
it's not a technology
World War
show,
One.
really. It's a show about life and how two guys, insignificant specks in the universe, are really just being,
So World War One never happens. So that's what it had, not in the same way. Oh, industrial power balance. So it's France, the United States, Austria still remains a power. So it's not it's more decentralized Europe. So they have Britain as a global power, obviously with the seas. Russia's still there. France, the continental power. No Hitler. No World War II. I'm trying to get.
But hang on a second. What I'm curious about. So the German unification happens in like 1871.
There it is.
And that comes from Bismarck wanting all of like a united Germany to fight France.
Right.
So I'm curious if France is like, this is what, 70, 65, 55 years later.
Right.
So this is 1871. If that's like, I don't know European history well enough between the end of the Napoleonic era and the Prussian Revolution that like brings together Germany. But if France is a stronger power after Napoleon either wins the war or like there's a detente and he doesn't get exiled and he continues to lead France, which in my estimation, which means nothing because I'm not a historian, he would not just sit on his hands for the next 20 years and do nothing. Like, the guy's going to start corralling another army. He's going to start thinking about how he can get back at Russia and England. But in the event that like the Prussian Revolution happens in the 1860s that leads to the German unification in 1871, like are they beating France? Are they losing to France? Like, what happens to Germany? Because you're talking about World War I doesn't happen, but like World War I is like Germany is the antagonist in the story,
right?
And
they get into that. So it says the biggest domino still holds. There is no unified German empire. In real history, Prussia unified Germany after wars orchestrated by Bismarck. In this alternative timeline, Prussia's weaker. Austria still influences German states, and Germany remains a loose confederation of kingdoms. But here's the one with this is the technological one that I want to get. So they said that because of no wars, no Cold War, and no World War II, jet engines in our timeline was 1945 in the 40s. Alternate estimate would be 50s or 60s. Nuclear weapons was 1945, possibly the 60s in the alternate timeline, and space exploration, driven in the 50s and 60s, wouldn't be until the 70s or 80s in the alternate timeline. And there was, I think I got later on. I mean, this was an hour, so you can imagine how many pages of this. But I did get into actual, like, like the actual.
I love this.
Alternate 80s. Here it is. Technology without wartime innovation, no rapid computing breakthroughs, no space race, no. Well, we got that. Things that may exist in the 80s in the alternate timeline: propeller aircraft. Analog electronics, that's before IC, so you're manually sitting there, whatever.
Right.
Basic television and early mainframe computers still in the 80s.
So the transistor does not really get invented in the 60s the way it did.
No.
back
Right,
then.
because there's no Apollo program, there's no Gemini program.
Right,
You don't need those
right.
things yet. There's no drive for those things yet.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. So, okay, this is a good. I mean, first of all, I would love to have a second history podcast with you, alternate history pod. This sounds incredible. I am a history buff. I love talking about alternate timelines. I'm so you and I have known each other a long time now. We've never talked about this. I'm so happy that we share this.
This is cool.
This love of alternate timelines, because For All Mankind, the first 3-4 seasons was the best show on TV for me, because I loved the idea of an alternate timeline of the space race where Russia got to the moon first.
We had to keep going.
I think this. I mean, in that timeline, in fact, because of what you just said, the inverse happens, where because Russia got there first, America had to turn up the knob to 11 in terms of technological breakthroughs, and they end up getting to the moon faster. They end up getting to Mars faster. They colonize Mars. They all this stuff is happening. They have a big civilization on Mars in 2012. They have a moon base in the 80s, and it's not really feasible. But if you think through, and the way that they do things at the beginning of each season, which I love, is that they give you kind of a snapshot of the alternate timeline landmark events. So they before the first episode of every season, you get okay, here are the dominoes that fell in this alternate universe that led us to getting to Mars in 1995, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think that's so fun. That's such a fun idea. Especially right now, as so many people are I wish we were in an alternate timeline for many reasons.
Well, it just shows if you have because people probably would have said the same thing about a moon base in the 80s, back in the 60s when they said we're going to the moon. So it took just this massive national effort with billions of dollars, and you needed this the kind of overriding, well, we don't want the Soviets to beat us, to fund that. And so it's interesting seeing that kind of interplay between needing this kind of global conflict to drive innovation, and then without it. So you wonder then, as far as human nature is concerned, you see Star Trek, you see the United Federation of Planets. If there's no strife, if there's no whatever, are we really getting to those? It's interesting to see what's actually driven innovation, and that's that one thing showed. World War I and World War II drove a heck of a lot of innovation. And then the moon race drove a heck of a lot more innovation. Then the Cold War drove some. So it's interesting to see, without these kind of global whatever going on, to see the lack of kind of money put towards these things.
Well, I mean, obviously there was the Challenger disaster in 1986, and that, I think, made a big difference. And not that the space shuttle program would have survived much longer than that anyway, but I just that whole thing, to me, we got to the moon, we did the thing. The Apollo program gets shut down in the mid 70s, and because people just weren't that interested in it anymore, you get the Nixon Watergate scandal, you get Vietnam, all the stuff that's distracting the world from the fact that Americans are constantly going up to space. And by what was it, Apollo 716 or something, nobody was tuning in anymore. It was over. And then the desire to get things going again in the 80s, just all that momentum gets completely stopped with the Challenger disaster. And the space shuttle program shuts down for a couple of years. It's just a very interesting turn of events.
Yeah, and I think it's a reflection on us, because I mean the political climates and everything. Yeah, but those are usually symptoms of what the populace is like. I mean, it's to get people together on the same page again, to be able to do stuff like that and to keep their attention. If people were still watching in the tens of millions, that would, the networks would still keep covering those things and whatever. It's people who lost. It's the populace that lost interest. They went on to other things, or we did that already. We're on to the next thing, and that's just kind of human nature, it seems like. And we see that now. We see that carry through to today. People are so desensitized to things that they just want to go on to the next thing, and that's why these technological innovations don't really wow anybody anymore, except for this one that's coming. AI is probably going to wow some people, so that'll be maybe that's the next one that drives people. We need some sort of crisis with AI, or maybe we don't need it.
We're here. The crisis is here, man.
Right, but in a recognizable form that galvanizes people to do something about it.
I mean, there was a 14-year-old girl that was kicked out of a town hall the other day. I think it was I forget which state it was in, but they were yelling about data centers being built in her town, and she was like screaming about wanting to oppose them, and was forcibly removed from this town hall. Like, people, there's real emotion around data center build out and AI proliferation, and the tension around that, and this idea that the big, like, it already in some ways looks like a 3-horse race between OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. Just this week, Meta announced that it's going to be building a hyperscaler project, which will basically help, like, make it competitive with Microsoft and Google and Oracle for cloud computing. They are attempting to build out a GPT 5.5 level model right now. The news on the AI front it's just not slowing down. Like, everything is ratcheting up to 11. It feels like over and over and over again, and there's just no consistency. There's no regulation. There's nothing. Like, it just feels like these guys are making the decisions.
Yeah, I think you picked up on the pushback, though, that's actually had some sort of effectiveness. And that is, that young girl was thrown out of that particular town hall meeting. But what I've seen, at least locally, and a lot of other places around the country, is that local municipalities are actually doing the right thing. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure because of the tax dollars and everything else. But we've had 2 municipalities locally ban data centers here after the town councils voted against them. And the reason is because that's where this is being felt. That's where that kind of AI is hitting home, because their water's dirty, or the temperature's going up, or the noise is unbearable at all times of the day. So you're seeing the environmental impact of these things, and when you get down to that local level and people are affected in their daily lives, that's when you start to see the turning point. And the fact that so many of these towns and village, whatever else, are voting against data centers, despite the fact that they'd bring thousands of jobs, they'd bring untold amounts of revenue, and who knows how many kickbacks and whatever else they'd be able to get. The fact that they're doing the right thing and whatever really has restored a lot of faith in local government. And I think it's good. I think that's where you're going to see the most effective pushback, is like, no, we're not housing these in our town. Will they find a town somewhere or in the middle of the desert where they could put these things? Sure. But there's going to be some pushback there.
Yeah, it's a bipartisan, the momentum is bipartisan, and it's one of the few bipartisan issues that leans like into the 70-80% range. There's I think a poll this week that I think 73% of Americans oppose data center build out in their jurisdiction. So that's a significant majority of people that don't want this in their backyard, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. The difference, though, is at some point the governments are probably going to be overridden, or there's going to be some sort of executive order or state level legislation that forces the local governments to relent, or it's just going to be like where, like with urban planning, we're gonna build a bunch of small data centers as opposed to one large one. and that will be a bit more palatable. They'll try to fit it into the local infrastructure, and eventually people will just not notice them.
Yeah, or countries, or certain countries, I think the UK is talking about this, they might actually use it as a bargaining chip. Like, okay, well, you don't want them over here. We have this land over here. House them over here. I think that was one of the considerations, that you could put them over here, and you could kind of, and then that way that protects the UK, because you can't say one day, oh, the US can't say, well, but we don't want to give you access to these models anymore. They'll have the models housed there, and they'll have a
you're talking
bargaining
about
chip.
like data sovereignty.
Data centers, data sovereignty.
Data
so
sovereignty.
that's an actual strategy for some of these countries. So maybe they just move over there. I don't know.
Well, they can't. I mean, the whole idea of a data center is that it's a localized compute. If you want to keep latency low, and you want response times to be above a certain level, like you need CDNs like today. These big companies, they basically reproduce the internet across these data centers all over the world, and the same is true of AI data centers. It's just they're bigger, and they require a lot more compute and make a lot more pollution and use a lot more energy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think there's something to be said about the significant pushback, and how right now the way that these data centers are funded is not really tenable long term, because OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they don't own them. They're sort of like they're leasing them back to themselves through these circular deals with NVIDIA and with the with like the construction companies, and they're like, these are massive $80 billion, $100 billion contracts, and it's going to come down to whether OpenAI and Anthropic can make money to pay these guys back. And at this point, it seems like that isn't happening. The money's coming in, the revenue's coming in, but the profit is nowhere near a certainty.
Yeah, so, no, and that's difficult. Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay,
with them.
Let's talk. I want to talk a couple things in the news this week. One of them you wanted to bring up was the fact that PlayStation discs will no longer be created as of January 2028. So Sony announced this week that as consumer preferences in the broader entertainment industry should continue to shift away from physical disc to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. So Sony disclosed in its latest quarterly earnings report that 80% of game sales are now digital, which has been a trend moving in that direction for many, many years. But to cease all production of physical discs, I think, is a bridge too far for many people, particularly preservationists and people who believe in owning your own stuff. You can't resell digital games. You can't really trade digital games. Like, you can, it's very limited. And it's the irony is that, like, even though there's less physical waste, there's way more digital waste, because once you're done with the game, you own it, you never play it again. And the companies love that, because your friend has to buy it himself. But this idea, and Nintendo sort of played around with this, where you can lend your games for 2 weeks, and you can buy a digital game that has like a physical component to it, so you can sell it if you need to. But Sony hasn't adopted anything like that. Microsoft hasn't adopted anything like that. And it just feels like this is the nail in the coffin for what has been like a thriving physical game industry. And as we talked about last week with the 20th anniversary of Blu-ray, just physical media in general, except for the esoterica like vinyl, seems to be going away entirely.
Yeah, and I mean, the Nintendo thing, I think they did with the most recent Pokemon game, because we had it. It was, you got something that looked like your game cartridge, like the regular Nintendo Switch 2 game cartridge. You'd put it in, but what it had like a key to play the game. So it's like when you buy a copy of Windows now, that thumb drive you get is basically just your authentication to be able to download and play. So that's what they did. That's at least something. But, that 80-20 split, I can't help but think was driven a lot by how difficult it is to get a physical copy of games sometimes. There aren't these centralized locations you could go to. GameStop's often a mess if they even carry them at all. If you're buying them through Amazon, you're often getting games not for your region. Sellers aren't. It's a disaster. Sometimes I've gotten games that I've bought new on Amazon used or opened. I just feel like it's just been discouraged over time. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that they downplayed physical media for the last 10 years or so, and now they just got to the point where the data supports the conclusion, but it was being forced the entire time. And you're right. And this is an example we talked about. If we're giving up, we were talking about the Fitbit, if we're giving up data, where's the good product in return? If we're giving up physical media and you lose all that value, it's a sunk cost the moment you buy it. You can't resell it. You can't do anything with it. If we're losing all that flexibility, the ability to have it forever, the ability to trade it, the ability to give it down to a sibling or something like that, where's the discount? It does not cost the same amount of money to do a disc versus the digital download.
Nintendo actually acknowledged that recently and discounted digital games by $10 over their physical counterparts. So that is now baked into Nintendo's price plan for all new games. And I think that is, look, it's not nothing. I would say it's a nice discount. It doesn't cost $10 to make a game cartridge. So Nintendo's acknowledging that there is some benefit to the user in buying it digitally. But what's clear is that this is about the platform owners asserting their dominance over pricing. So like we get on Steam and on Nintendo eStore and on the PlayStation Store and Xbox Store, you get these sales every few months. They work with publishers to discount particular titles, but it's all on their store. Whereas Amazon, once they own the inventory, can do whatever they want if they want to discount a game. If you want to buy in the clearance section of a Best Buy, like you can get a $5 cartridge, a $5 disc. Like there's nothing preventing these retailers from making their own decisions around pricing once they own the inventory. And that's just not true if you're only buying digitally. Now, obviously, there are third-party stores that will resell games, and you can get cheap games on like GOG or Green Man Games or something. But that's not always a given, and I don't know how independent those pricing structures are. Like what are they doing? Are they buying a bunch of digital codes at wholesale cost, and then just like distributing them down to their users? Or are they working with the platform owners and the publishers directly? Like that's something that's pretty opaque, at least to me. I don't know if that is known in the industry, whether these third-party digital resellers have built-in pricing flexibility from the platform owners like Sony or Xbox, or the publishers themselves.
Yeah, the code thing, this is something that, this is what I get back to the point of that they've been trying stuff for years. I remember when they first started with the sports games, I think it was EA, you could physically sell your disc to somebody else and you could buy it at GameStop used, but you couldn't play it online. The code for multiplayer didn't transfer with the disc. So if you bought it used cheap, you had to go online to either EA or whatever and buy a code to be able to play it online. So I don't know if that's the same, like you said, the codes. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you buy in bulk, if you could get a discount, I don't know what the deal is there about what they're going to be able to do. But it just gets back to rebuying, like we do with movies and music, whatever. We're going to be winding up rebuying the same stuff over and over again, because when the store shut down or the server shut down for any individual console, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
So I think Activision just announced that Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, the original ones, are going to be re-released for PlayStation 5. Not remastered, not whatever, just literally the game's ported and put back up on dedicated servers, so the hacking and whatever else. Are they charging $15 for a game that we've already purchased? Are they charging whatever? No. $40 a piece, and you don't even get the whole game. If you want the DLC maps, which is ridiculous to even think about at this point, it's another $30. So if you want Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 in the same condition they were to play again, you're going to be paying $140 combined. And that's the power that they're going to have. Because what's the alternative? It's not getting out my disc and putting it in my PlayStation and it updating and working. Why wouldn't that be the solution? Hey, we've ported Black Ops 2, but if you got your original disc, since we didn't do anything to the game, we didn't remaster it or anything, you could put your disc in and you get either a code or whatever, you could download it. Nothing like that. Nothing. They're going to have complete control over your game library, and that's the end of it.
Although, I would say that if there are enough people rightfully incensed by that decision, they should just not buy the damn game and show Activision that it's not acceptable to do that. Like, look at what Ubisoft is doing with Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. So it's coming out this month. It's supposed to be like a full-on single-player remaster or recreation. You can still play the original, but I think the difference here is the excuse that companies make around online infrastructure. You could play a single player game forever. That's fine. But like, we can't necessarily spend money on keeping up old infrastructure for multiplayer games where like only a couple hundred or a couple thousand people are playing it consistently. That I kind of understand. And if they're updating the multiplayer code and they're making it more efficient, like there's a cost there. But is it $40 per person? No way. Like, that's absurd. But like the gaming industry right now is basically being propped up by remakes. Like, every studio is just releasing games that they've released 10 or 20 years before, and people seem to be okay with it.
Oh my God! Someone told me something last night. They said, "Well, Y2K actually happened in the universe end because everything after 2000 seems to be remixed for whatever time you want to pick." But it just seems, it is odd that I don't know if there's that need for nostalgia. I don't know if there's that need for you're comforted by web, because I experienced this in Call of Duty too. We play weekly, so the new maps that were created new for the game often stink. And they have to remake the old maps over and over and over again because that's what people enjoy playing. And it just seems to me like if you were to make something new that people actually enjoyed, you wouldn't need to lean on nostalgia so much. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just our brains are programmed at this age, and maybe it's the late 30s, early 40s, something like that. We just can't change, or we're so excited by something that's familiar that we just gravitate towards these things. I don't know if it's they're not creating things that are interesting and good enough to captivate our attention, or if we're just not open to them. I don't know what the balance is.
It depends on your age, but also it's just a matter of there are so many games. There are just an infinite number of games, and a lot of the arguments around the deprecation of physical discs, not deprecation, the cessation of creating physical discs is like, you'll just emulate stuff. You know, if you're worried, like this pertains mostly more to like the announcement Sony made in parallel to this, that they're shutting down the PlayStation 3 and PS Vita stores next year. And the argument that I've read everywhere was like, it doesn't matter because you can emulate a PS3 fairly easily. You can emulate a Vita extremely easily. And it's a cinch. Like, it's not like it was a decade ago. You could play these games, without much technical knowledge, But there is still a lift there. And I feel like Sony is going to want to take advantage of that. If you can't buy PS3 games and play them on the PS3 anymore, obviously you'll still be able to play the ones and download the ones that you already own. They'll start remastering and re-releasing those games. How many times will you play Killzone on your PS6? Like that's the kind of thing that I'm sure will happen. But it's also like,
speaking of emulation, though. Oh well, no.
PS3 is 20 years old. It came out in 2006. The Vita is coming on what, 13 years old, 12 years old? No wait,
yeah, Vita was
2014 or 2012. I forget. 2012.
Wait. Yeah, 2012, 2011, 2012. Yeah. I have a couple of them. I love the Vita.
I still use it. I have mine. It's I like charge it up every couple of weeks. But yeah, I think from a business perspective, as the game industry contracts a little bit and consolidates even further, getting rid of a lot of this legacy stuff, what's happening with Microsoft as well, potentially selling off a lot of its studios and maybe even selling Xbox wholesale, or spinning it off entirely to a new company. Like these are difficult times to be in the gaming business if you're not Take-Two Interactive. Like everybody is just looking forward to GTA 6, but that's the only sure thing in this entire business. And even that's not being sold as a physical game. So,
now that one I understood though. At least if they announced that later they're going to have physical games, for at least the excuse that I heard was that they didn't want physical copies leaking early. So after the full release, then they'll start producing physical discs. Was at least the thing I thought I heard.
Or is that just
I don't know. I don't know if I heard that somewhere, or it may be a rumor. We'll just not. Well, I'll couch that.
That's just wishful thinking, I think, on your part.
Right. Well, listen, I'll take it. But now, do you want to be a professional podcaster or not?
Yes.
Because this is a great segue. Speaking about emulation, is something that you had mentioned in the show notes. I don't know if you want to go.
Oh yeah. Okay, so there's this really cool project that I saw this week. So I've been thinking about ESP32 and e-ink stuff a lot lately, because with vibe coding being as straightforward as it is, you buy these developer kits for these ESP32 like low power CPUs. You connect it to an e-ink display, and you can like build your own dashboard that hangs on a wall or it sits on a table or something and can display the weather and blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of cool things you can do. I've looked into, we talked about this with the Terminal and the Terminal X. There's Seed. There's a bunch of other projects out there. This one is, I got this from The Verge. It's a YouTube video by a guy named Wenting channel, and he's I guess a gaming DIYer, and he built a touchscreen Game Boy using one of these e-ink displays and writing his own drivers to emulate the Game Boy on this display. Now, what's so interesting about this is that there's no physical controls. It's all touchscreen, so that's not ideal, but it works and it looks incredible. Like because it's the same aspect ratio as, so the whole thing, not the screen itself, but like the physical size of the display is pretty much akin to the original Game Boy. So when you look at this in like being played, it looks like a Game Boy. It's actually quite incredible that he got this working. And I don't know, like the technical knowledge, like this is not something you can fake. You actually do need to understand like the low level technical development of like video game drivers and stuff here. But I just think this is something absolutely amazing that you can play a Game Boy on an ESP32 powered e-ink display at frame rates that mirror the original, and it just works and it looks great. And if I were a betting man, I would say that this is the kind of thing that we will see much more often in the future, in like these ready to use kits, because gaming handhelds are a big deal. People don't want to spend $1 million on them anymore. And, Ambernick sells some great ones, but this seems like if you want to play the Game Boy Advance, early NES stuff, like you can do it on an e-ink display, and the performance is fine, the experience is great, and this just seems like a super fun project.
Yeah, I was amazed by the frame rate. I didn't know, and this is the thing, like that the trick is bypassing the ink panel's standard slow waveform driver to push pixels directly. I didn't know that was even a possibility on the. So e-ink displays are just, because that was always the concern with stuff like that or some of these e-ink tablets, is that the refresh rate was good enough for reading and some of these other things, but gaming didn't even feel like a possibility to me on some of these things. But that's amazing that he was able to get that to work. That's
I
really
have
cool.
something to show you. So if you're watching the show on YouTube, which you should be, I have bought the XT ink or XT ink, like tiny little e-paper display that hooks onto the back of your phone, and I love it. I put the crossover firmware on it, and it allows you to drag and drop EPUB files from a web interface, and it just works. It's super. I mean, it's not like a fast refresh rate or anything, and the reading experience is kind of shit. But like, it's really fun. I will say, like it's so fun just to have this on the back of my phone. I was on the subway last night, and instead of scrolling through Reddit or whatever, I just turned my phone around and read, and it was great. And I think this is I totally understand why this has been as popular as it is.
Excellent. That does seem cool. I might look into that. That's interesting. That you just, instead of scrolling, you're not messing around on your phone, you're not whatever. It's just, let me actually turn around and read something. I love e-ink stuff. I love e-ink stuff. I'm testing the Books Go 6, the new one, which thankfully lags significantly less than the older one. But what I've been doing is I put Instapaper on my desktop. During the day, I'm busy. I see an article I'm really interested in. I'm like, I don't got time for this now. My brain's not there. I hit the little
1:30.
After I'm done with Napoleon, all right? Then we get to whatever else is. So I hit the little e-paper thing, and then or Instapaper thing. I'll get them right eventually. And then I go to bed, and my books go there because the battery lasts 6 weeks. Sits there, wait in bed, waiting for me. Open it up, read those few articles. Takes only a few minutes, and I feel I'm reading again. I get that calm, like you said, at 1:30 in order to be able to read.
Do you remember what you're reading at that time of night?
I remember when I am my sharpest. Then I'm reconfiguring the history of Europe at 1:30. You think I can't handle an article about a guy installing Windows 11 on DDR1 RAM or whatever it is I was reading the other night?
Okay.
See,
next week I'm gonna test you. Okay, a couple other small things. So this week, Cloudflare announced that it will make AI companies pay for publisher content by having separate crawlers for content and for AI scraping, basically. So companies like Google force publishers to allow Gemini to scrape its content if they want to keep their content on Google search. But other companies don't necessarily have that market power. And Cloudflare is basically saying you should pay for the ability to steal the internet's content.
100%.
And that is, I think, a very straightforward and understandable plan. So I don't know, man. It's like better late than never, but this should have been here 2 years ago. 3 years ago. Like, ChatGPT is almost 4 years old now. So this has been happening for a while, but
and especially, I'm guessing it's driven by Google changing the way search works. So if you're gonna basically eliminate somebody's need to come to my site and see my ads, why am I letting you have that information for free? Even if you like I know it'll quote sources and whatever else, but nobody's going to your site after they see the answer in the AI chat, the AI search summary. So why shouldn't you get something from your content? I love it.
So they're basically targeting Google here. Now, it's unclear to me how much leverage Cloudflare has over Google. Like a lot of companies, a lot of sites use Cloudflare as a the DNS, as a denial of service proxy, things like that. But it's like, how much does Cloudflare have? How much of the internet, the open web, does Cloudflare actually have access to? In a way that if they implement this change and the AI companies don't want to comply, will it impact their ability to glean parts of the internet for data training enough that it will like have an impact on the quality of their upcoming models? Like, that part I don't really know, but I think just the fact that they're drawing a line in the sand and saying, like, this is a thing. We have some leverage here. We want publishers to get paid for the content that they produce. You should not be able to have a mixed use crawler and force publishers to be, to let you scrape if you want this other benefit, which is essentially what Google does. And I don't know. I mean, this feels right. This feels like a good way to do it, that AI companies should be compensating publishers and other websites that host important training data, potential training data, to get paid, like, straight up.
Yeah, and maybe, like you said, we don't know what kind of leverage Cloudflare may have, but it's an opening salvo. Like, other companies are going to be able to see that and say, well, hold on a minute. So if you get enough of them together and you're able to kind of mount that defense, I think you're right. That's absolutely the way it should work. That's absolutely the publishers and whoever else should be paid for the content that's being used in these models. And I'm glad that somebody at least said, hey, raised their hands like, excuse me, no, you're paying for our stuff. So even if Cloudflare doesn't have the leverage, I think they host a lot of stuff, but even if they don't have the leverage completely to kind of get Google to change on their own, hopefully enough companies are now maybe emboldened to say, well, wait a minute, no, that's a good idea. We're doing that too. So you never know.
I also think Google's leverage over this will lessen over time, because as people drop off Google search, it will be less important. Sort of like on Twitter, what happened after Elon Musk bought Twitter. Like, there are a lot of companies that still rely on Twitter for broadcast and distribution, but the fact that Twitter is no longer kind of the central place that companies use to disseminate announcements has allowed for the proliferation of other means of distribution. It hasn't there's no one Twitter replacement, and acknowledge that many companies still rely on Twitter, but it's the same idea. If people are using Google search less, and Google is forcing websites and publishers to allow them to scrape their websites in exchange for just, hey, Google, stop. If they're going to just force people to allow Google to crawl their sites for AI, if they want to stay on the search engine, that will, I think, decline very quickly. Now, one thing that Matthew Prince, the owner, a CEO of Cloudflare, said in early June was that he thought bot traffic would overtake human traffic for the first time in late 2027. But in fact, as of June 3rd, it surpassed 50%. And as of today, it's sitting at 56%, which is insane.
Wow.
56% of all traffic monitored by Cloudflare is bot traffic now. Just absurd.
That's and I very limited figures, but I've noticed that with my own site. It's just that there's the amount of bots that just scan. It's at least 75% traffic. The amount of bots that just hit it over and over and over again for whatever is incredible to me. I don't even know where they all. It's unbelievable, unbelievable.
Okay, here's a question. Just there's this website called Cloudflare Radar that has a bunch of stats. I'm a stats guy. What is the country with the highest percentage of mobile traffic in the world?
Mobile traffic meaning what? Like just
the percentage of overall internet traffic as defined
mobile
by mobile devices versus non-mobile. Where is it the highest? You will never get this.
Where is it the highest? Oh, it's got to be an off-ball. It's got to be an oddball one then. It's got to be. I'm going to go highest percentage. So it doesn't necessarily mean the most amount of people. I'm going to go.
No, not the net highest amount of traffic, just the highest percentage of mobile to desktop.
Highest percentage of mobile to desktop. I'm going to say it's in probably places with. I want to say somewhere in Africa.
Yes. Okay. You got that. So the top three are in Africa.
Okay. Top three are in Africa. I mean, individual countries, but I mean, I can imagine Democratic Republic of Congo is on the list just because of the World Cup. Maybe their traffic is high. I don't know. Interesting. What are the? Okay, now go ahead.
I'll tell you. It is Somalia.
Yeah.
Somalia. 80.8% is.
That's it. Interesting.
Yeah, it's Botswana and Swaziland are the 2 and 3 at 79.9 and 79.5%.
Unbelievable.
Truly wild to me.
I get it though, because internet infrastructure is probably not there.
No, it's never been
desktop
there. Like they're mobile first
desktop
places.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's only showing me the top 5 here. I don't know if I can expand that beyond it, but it's Somalia, Botswana, Swaziland, Malawi, and South Sudan in Africa. That's Sudan. Percentage of mobile traffic. This is a cool site. I'm actually going to bookmark this because I'm an internet stats nerd, and this is a cool place to visit for.
And they get on me for Napoleon, and this guy's an internet stats nerd about mobile data usage around the world. I tell you.
Okay, I have
chat. Do your thing.
I have some homework. We're gonna go because I have to get a filling. I have some homework for you next week. I want you to come back to me. So I have a friend. Who asserts that history's most influential group of all time was the Mongols. That the Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, Khan, however you pronounce it, was the most influential, took the most action and made the most changes to the physical and political makeup of Europe.
Right.
So, I first want you to ask ChatGPT what it thinks and go through an alternative timeline if Genghis Khan did not conquer as much of Europe as he did, what happens to history? Do we still get all of our milestones with that? Because I'm very curious about this, and I think you'll enjoy that, especially at 1:32 in the morning. Sit back, chatting with chat. It's going to be good.
You got to read How the Irish Saved Civilization if you haven't already. That's
How the Irish
saved civilization. It's about how information was kept during the Dark Ages, and how they saved a lot of it. So you'd appreciate that as well.
I do. I think I will. Okay. Well, that was fun. We had a lot of plans for this episode that went nowhere, which
we're 11 for 11 on that, though. By the way, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face.
This was way worse. I had 2 full rundowns. We had a main show and an alternative show, and we did none of that except for 1 or 2 points. So we'll talk about the main part at another time. But anyway, this was fun. I hope you have a lovely 4th and enjoy celebrating your 250th.
Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful dental appointment.
I'm not excited about it, but
you're first, by the way. At 40 something, you should tell the audience that you're first.
My first filling at 41 years old.
Make sure you get a little mini toothbrush and a balloon.
End of an era.
Whatever they give you.
Anyway, thank you for listening. thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Send us your feedback. Emails in the show notes. We're on the up, so tell your friends.
Listen. Yeah, get in early.
We're close to programmatic monetization, so if you tell enough of your friends, we can get paid pennies on the dollar for our hard work. So we'd appreciate it. And what else do you want to tell the people, Stephen?
Nothing. No, enjoy your be safe. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was an interesting period. You know, the 80-86, the 80-88, like all those things.
So cool. Such a good time in U.S.
The slot one, I tell you that slot one, that was short-lived, but I loved that. The daughter board card, essentially, just before they couldn't get the L2 cache on the chip itself, and you had that, like, thing. Like you just slot into the and that was your processor. Why we went away from that? I understand why we went away from it, but that was just such a cool, like, and they used it in all the commercials. And it looked so cool because you could see kind of like the thing, and the heat sink it was cool. It was neat.
I think that was
Pentium 2, early Pentium 3. That's what that was. It looked at slot 1, Pentium 3, and you'll see what I mean. And that's what they used in the commercials. And it was such a cool, like, that's what plugged in. So, like, it plugged into a slot. Like, that was the chipset. So
that was the CPU. So instead of putting it
that
on
was the CPU.
Like,
okay. It's not on the board itself. I mean, it is on the board, but it was in a slot. There was like a daughter board slot that you'd slot that into. And the reason being is they couldn't fit the cache on the die at the time. Like, we didn't have that technology yet, and you needed by then the L2 cache and stuff like that, or else the computers ran like shit. So that's what that was the solution. It's like, okay, we're going to essentially come up with a daughter board that's going to have the cache on it and the whatever, and we're just going to slot it right into the motherboard. That was short-lived. That was like 3 years, maybe, they did that. And then the socket 370s, I think, for the Pentium 4. Mm-hmm. But by then, I think the cache could be on the die. It was an interesting time. Interesting time.
Yeah, I gotta refresh my memory on this era of computing. It was very, very wild. Like, the race to 1 gigahertz was just such a fun period of time. Like, the Athlon 64.
Yep.
Competing with the Intel Core. Was it the Pentium?
I think Pentium 4s would finally got
Pentium
there.
4,
Or no, it got close.
gigahertz?
Pentium 4 got close. Wait, highest Pentium 4. Highest ever clock speed. Highest ship. Highest factory release Pentium 4 was 3.8 gigahertz. So first gigahertz.
Wasn't it Pentium 3?
Did it get there?
It must have.
Probably. Yeah, Pentium 3, Coppermine, 2000.
I remember because I had a Pentium 3, like 1 gigahertz.
I had a 500. Must have been nice. I had a 500.
Well, it was late.
Pentium
It was
3.
late in the generation. I didn't get it new, but I upgraded from my Pentium 2 266.
Oh yeah, that was the sweet spot for so long. That Pentium 2 266 with MMX technology. That was like.
That was the shit.
That was the computer for like 97, 98, early 90. Like, that was the machine.
With the 3DFX Voodoo 3
Oh, yeah.
graphics card.
All the frames in Quake.
Quake 2? Quake 2.
Yeah, Quake 2, Quake 3. Yeah, Quake 3 was later. Yeah,
No, Quake 3 wasn't out yet.
Yeah, Quake 2.
When did Quake 3 come out? Oh, you're right, it did. Quake 3 was 99. So it was still
99. Yeah, it was before. Yeah, it was still Quake 2.
Quake 2 was 97.
Unreal
Quake 2
Tournament, 99 too.
Yeah, Quake 3 Arena, Quake 3 Arena and Unreal Tournament were like the
same time,
100
yeah.
people. You could have 100 people in
Oh, yeah.
That
was great.
In the map. Shit, that was
I had
great.
my Pentium 3 500, the original GeForce card, and Unreal Tournament. And I didn't quite understand why, like, for some reason, Unreal Tournament defaulted to, like, this windowed 640 by 480 mode or something like that. And I'm like, what? I have a GeForce. What's the deal? But I hadn't selected the right. I was using, like, chipset graphics or something. So I switched it over the first time. I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And the one world is, like, spinning. The two facing towers you see is, like, the planet spinning and whatever. And you're playing with 60 other people online at the same time. I was like, this is incredible.
So crazy. Okay, let's go. I got a hard
Let's
out
go.
in
You got a hard out
an
here. You got to
hour
get your
and a few
teeth
minutes.
fixed or whatever.
I got it. It's my first ever filling.
Really?
Yeah, I've never.
What do
had
they
a
have in the
filling.
water over there? Holy God! They
I just
put
got
fluoride in our
lucky,
water for
and
that.
now I'm starting to feel the age. It's not even a filling. It's not even a cavity. Like I don't have the cavity. She's like, you're starting to get the cavity. We can see it on the X-ray. So to prevent the cavity from forming, we're going to give you a preemptive filling. I'm like, all right, you do.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, bro. I don't know.
The water is good up here. That's
Apparently.
that's what I hear.
I mean, they put fluoride in our water or whatever, so I don't know what the problem is.
They put Jesus in your water. I don't know about fluoride. All right, let's do this.
Yeah. Let's do it.